Greetings and salutations to everybody out there in listening and viewing land. Back at you one more time again for the midweek catch up, the Wednesday Wagwan. All right, guys. Hope y'all been safe. Hope y'all been good as we're in the midweek, coming and ending off the month strong, but nonetheless, still ending it off on a violent note. So let's get right into it. So much to talk about. So I'll just try to be quick tonight because quite a lot has been happening. As over the weekend we realized that we heard the news about a young man was sitting in the subway system, in the subway waiting for his ride, and was stabbed randomly and later died. It's really tragic when anyone dies, but it's so sad when just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's what happened to this young man. And now his family has to be looking about funeral arrangements. My condolences out to that family. And one of the sad things too is another male on male, man on man situation. Two young people, 16-year-old victim, 22-year-old suspect, alleged suspect, because until they're finally sentenced, it's alleged. But what we know about this particular gentleman or person who stabbed this 16-year-old boy is that he seems to be a career criminal, was released not so long ago, did some time not so long ago, was charged for assault not so long ago with a knife, box cutter, and he's a violent individual. And the problem I have with this particular story, there are many, but the one in particular that keeps coming up is the issue of mental disability, or whatever the terminology is. Mental issues is what is being blamed here. And I think, sometimes people can just look on something and say, you have to be out of your mind or not mentally sound if you're doing something like that, obviously. But also, we're not doctors, and we just seem to just place this label so freely on just about anything nowadays that pertains to crime, especially when violent. So sticking here in Canada, we're seeing that the subway and the transit system seems to be almost like parallel. I know I'm being a little exaggerative, but in parallel to the U.S., where we hear so often of mass shootings, school shootings. It's like almost two a week, one a week, whatever, a month, very often. And over here, we're seeing a trend in violence on the transit system very often, too often. And I just did an episode, last one, on safety. So people, I just encourage you to continue to remain vigilant, sober, and aware of your surroundings, because this young man was just sitting and minding his own business, and he lost his life, and that sucks. I can't even put it any prettier than that. It just sucks. And he didn't have to lose his life, but he did. So here we are today talking about it, and I don't even really know where to touch that, because that can be anybody. That could have been anybody's child. And it's just a sad situation. And that's another funeral that's going to be taking place here in our city due to violence on the transit system. Stabbing. So that was what's happening on the weekend there. Ah, boy. Um, okay. So that happened. Other things happened here too, but there's something I want to touch on too. So let's jump out of that and go into our neighbors to the south of us. For just the other day, after I heard that news, I come home and I'm hearing breaking news of a mass shooting, school shooting in the States, Nashville. And I'm like, okay, what happened now? So then I heard the name and it sounds like a woman's name, 28-year-old woman. They're saying that went into the school loaded with 3 different caliber guns and took the lives of the principal, teacher, custodian, and 3 9-year-old children. 6 total. And I believe she was shot down. Later to find out that this she is a he or trans, and there's so many layers to this story too, because I don't even know, the police don't know if that's the motive for why she targeted this particular school, because I mean it was a Christian school, and I understand that they don't have any what's the word, I'm sure they don't tolerate or you know pallet this behavior with or this transgender movement, homosexuality, and all other movements. So I don't know what the motive was, but needless to say, lives were lost, and our condolences goes out to those families also, because they shouldn't have been, you know, victims because you're going through whatever you're going through and taking on innocent lives. So Nashville had their thing, and it's so, you know, just as I started this segment talking about the parallels between our countries, where we seem to be seeing random acts and more frequent acts of violence on our transit systems, buses, trains, etc. And that seems to be like almost a weekly occurrence, monthly occurrence. And in the States, it's the opposite when it comes to, or the same when it comes to school shootings. Gun issues are, it's a mess over there. So men continue to die, and I'm here talking about it again. And as we wind down on the last few days of March, going into my month, April, I'm just still, hoping that there's a calm, because right now we're in a storm of violence. And as the saying goes, after a storm, there must be a calm. So we're praying for that calm there. Speaking of calm, it was a calm situation today in Virginia, where I believe the life of Ervo Otieno was celebrated, the young man that was smothered to death just about 3 weeks ago by 7 sheriff's deputies and 3 medical staffers. Total of 10 people smothering, holding, subduing, trying to hold down one individual. I don't know how you could actually think that that was something that was okay. I mean, listen, I've played Pylon. If anybody's ever played that game, Pylon, in public school, and I'll tell you, I think I played that game once. Lucky if I say twice, because when I was at the bottom of that pile, I'm telling you, I did everything to move to get a little breather. Literally, people just kept on jumping on pylon. And when you're down at the bottom and you're hearing everybody up top laughing and giggling, you're not having fun down there. But thank God I made it out, and I never played that game again because I didn't want anyone to be at the bottom of that pile going through what I was feeling. And I think anyone who was in that situation can attest to that too. Now, I just bring that up just to say that you have 10 people smothering you, commanding you and telling you to stay still, etc. Like, I don't understand what it is with police officers that decide to just, first of all, like to degrade you by putting you on the ground. And then, you know, where people walk and all kind of nastiness, and then try to push your face in it and make you, you know, like, I don't understand. You're on your stomach. 7 people are on you and they're not light. And you think this is okay. And you think that, okay, you know, he's just going to stop and not try to breathe. It's just a natural effect that you're going to try and breathe. It's just a natural reaction that you're going to have to try and get air into your lungs, get into your system. And you have 10 people trying to impede that. So tonight, I'm wondering, is this the new way, the new capital punishment for men to die? You know, if I was going to title this one tonight, it would be I Can't Breathe, because, you know, when I get so angry at hearing, you know, school shootings and people dying senselessly, young kids, it just stops your breath for a second. When you hear, you know, the effect of a mother crying, knowing that her son passed away, was murdered by officers, people who were to serve and protect and did not protect, and ultimately killed this young man. That alone makes me feel like I can't breathe, because what do you say? What do you do? Being in that situation and you're trying to tell them you can't breathe and they're just, oh man, it's terrible. It's just terrible. And the majority of the officers were black. This was a black individual. I believe there was 2 white officers. But again, the color that I see here is blue. And the authority that they use while in this color of blue. Because obviously the power is way too much for them to handle, that they cannot even comprehend that there's a human life being snuffed away because you feel you're using your authority and your power. As a matter of fact, not even using, abusing your authority and your power. So, you know, I can't breathe. I can't stand what I'm seeing. I can't stand what I'm seeing. That you have young men and other people just dying senselessly. I don't know what I don't know if there's even something that's a sensible killing. But that's what you have happening in Nashville, in Virginia, and here in Ontario. You have senseless killings of random acts where people are coming and stabbing people to death. 16-year-old boy lost his life, never go home to his folks. Folks will never see him. We label this as the suspect as having mental issues. Mental issues. I'm convinced that there's just evil in the world, and we gotta just call evil evil, man, because this is not a one-off act by this suspect or this person who's charged. This is something that he's a career offender. He's been in and out of the system, and here we are calling it mental issues. We have CAMH that is supposed to be the place to deal with some of these issues, but obviously there's been people escaping CAMH, and I don't know if CAMH. Listen, I don't wanna bash the establishment, but it seems to be a little beyond just CAMH. Maybe there's other agencies that need to get involved in this too. And if there's in fact a mental issue and diagnose that, I'd rather hear a doctor or someone who's trained in these areas to say this is in fact something that was mental. And the other question I have is, could it have been that sometimes people do some of these things and they put a bad name on every homeless person out there? Is it that somebody's looking a place where they can stay, in terms of whether it be bad as prison, but they'll be fed, they'll be housed, and they'll have a shelter over their head? I doubt that that might be it, that someone is going to be actually, because for that matter, you could have just held up a bank or pretend to hold up a bank and be charged with it and do the time, but don't have to take lives. So I don't know what that is either, but whatever it is, it's sad. And so we have a 16-year-old boy who's no longer among us. We have 3 weeks ago, Ervo Otieno, 28, who's no longer with us. And we have 6 individuals, 3 9-year-olds, and teacher, principal, and custodian, all no longer with us at the hands of someone who is also not with us. Yeah, so that's a little catch up of what's going on, and just thought I'd just put it out there um, on this topic tonight. Feel like I can't breathe, but the good thing is that I actually can breathe. And while I have breath, I'm going to just talk about this and pray that I'm never in those situations where those words will be coming from my mouth in terms of trying to sustain or save my life, as we saw with George Floyd and so many others. And I thought, again, after we've seen what happened with George Floyd, that we wouldn't be seeing something like this that happened to Ervo Otieno, who was smothered for 12 minutes of 10 people being on him. All right, people. We're getting closer to the end of March. So next time you hear from me, God's willing, we will be in a new month. And, you know, I would say, hopefully I don't have to report anything on about men are dying, but we'll see. Anyway, until next time, walk good, keep your head up, look up, be sober, be vigilant, be aware of your surroundings, all right? Until we catch up again, I'm Drew signing off for the Wednesday Wagwan, the midweek catch up. Until next time, peace.